Hello guys, Joseph here once more. How is everything with you guys? Alright, so today we are going to be looking at something I love personally, and for a while I've been diving into interior designs and all sorts of that. So in today's tutorial we're going to be looking at how to create something like this using the hair object in Cinema 4D, then rendering with Redshift. So before I get into the tutorial, I would like to implore you guys to please like, share this video because you don't know who this video might help, and also it helps me in YouTube algorithm. And if you're new to my channel, please do subscribe because I do tutorials like this every time. So without further ado, let's just get into the tutorial and see how we can get this done. Let's start by creating a plain object to serve as my carpet. So I'm going to bring this, scale this down, and by the way, I already have the scene set up, so I don't really want to go through the process of setting up this scene. I just have a small room that I want to light. I already have my lights around, so that's what I'm going to try and create a carpet or from. So depending on the shape you want for your carpet, you can just draw that shape and that will give you that shape of the carpet. So if I hit NB to show the wireframe, so let me get to the camera so that I'll be sure that I'm in frame. So I'm fine here. Then maybe I'll make this 40 by 40. So the reason why I'm giving this segment is because I need to break this perfect edges, break it off. So what I'm going to do is once I have this enough subdivision, I'm going to hold down shift, go to the deformer stage and put a displacer. So as soon as I put a displacer, holding down shift will place the displacer as a child of the plane. So I want to come over to the shading tab, then go to the shader. I'm going to add a noise displacer to it. So you notice the displacement occurring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase this value to somewhat maybe 800. I think 800 is too much. Just want to have 600, 500. I think that's much. Let's try 300. Maybe 2. I want to have enough of this, and that is one. The other thing I notice is that you notice this thing is going through the floor, and I don't want this to go through the floor. So what I'm going to do is go back to the displacer, to the object tab. I don't want to use the type intensity center. So what intensity center does is that it's going to make the black part of the noise, take it below the 0 position and take the white part more than the 0 position. So that's why you have this. So those ones that are coming up are the ones with the white texture, and the ones with the black texture as one going down. But I want to keep the base as this. I want to keep the 0 position. I just want to only displace along the positive value, which is also the white. So what I'm going to do is go to this displacer under the object. I want to change from this intensity center to normal intensity. So it's going to come back to this. So we are only displacing along the height segment. So if I scroll down here, you notice you have this. So you can always, so now you notice we also have another problem. So the problem is this: the 0 position, the black position is still not on the ground. So what we do to make this fall on the ground or come to the ground is go back to the noise shader. Then I would want to scroll down till I have this clip section. So I'm going to so the calculation I came about with is for me to keep the base value, normally go into the color shading. Black goes down, white goes up, and 50% gray keeps the initial position. So that's what I want to do. So I'll go to the brightness, bring this down to -50. So it's going to push it to the ground floor. So once this pushes this to the ground floor, I now know that this is on the ground floor. Then every other thing I do will be placed above. So if I start to do this, increase the lower clip, I'm getting rid of more of the white, I'm adding more black. So that means everything is going to be on the ground. But if I want to add more bump, then I'll bring the high clip backward. So you just work with value that you think is okay for you. So I can also come here and make it, bring this 150. So I have enough, and bring this down. So this is just me setting up this. So once I'm done with that, I can always go back and increase this segment so that I get a smooth effect. So the other thing is here, the displacement is quite too large, so I can reduce that displacement by going to the object tab. Come to the height. If I bring this height down 5, you notice the displacement, but not too much. So I don't want to be too much with it. Just want to be subtle with the values I'm adding so I can get the realism I'm looking for. So you would want to stop here and start adding your hair objects, but then I also like making this thing look more realistic. Sorry about that cough. So what I'm going to do to add even more wrinkle to it is to work with this deformer, which is the smooth deformer, and work using it with the brush object. So that will help me. So I already have an object that I've created. I don't want to go through the process of creating this. So what I just did was to add a smooth deformer, change it to relaxed state, then go to this to yeah, and then magnet tool. So what the magnet tool does is just to allow me to pick that. But then I have a tutorial about how to create a wrinkle on an object. So I'm going to place that tutorial in the top card or in the description so you can just check that video and follow along. So now that I have this, I'm going to delete this since I don't need this anymore. So now that I have this carpet that I've already created, so you see this, if I hit NA, so I have these segments. I don't really need it to be smooth. See, so once I have that, the next thing I'm going to do is to add the hair. So if I select this carpet and I go to my simulate and object, hair object, and I'm going to click on this add hair object. So once I click on add hair object, I'm going to have this. So the height of the hair object is too much. So what I'm going to do is go to the guide section and change the length. So let's try 3 and see. I think 3 is not bad. So if you, depending on the fill you are looking for, you can change the length. And then I don't want my distribution. If I hit NB now, you notice that the distribution of this are on the vertices of the polygon of this object. So every vertex you have the head distributed on then or placed on those things. So I don't want that. I want to distribute this evenly so that I want it to follow, just have an even distribution along the area of this whole object. So I'll change the root from vertex to polygon area. So if I click on polygon area, and that will shift. So now you might not really see this until you go back and reroute, then regrow. So it's going to randomly distribute that. So the other thing is you can also increase the count. So let's try 10,000. So we have more count here. Then the other thing is for the segment. So the segment is what affects the way the curve, how curvy the strand of the hair is. So I think 8 is too much for me. So I'll try and work with 6, if not 5. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. So the other thing I'm going to do is I don't want to see all this guide. Instead, in my viewport, I want to be seeing the hair strand. So if I go to my editor, I'll go over to the preview. I want to change the preview from guidelines to hairlines. So if I change this to hairlines, I start to see black lines. All right, so once I have these hairlines and I go to the hair section, I can start changing these values here. So let's reroute and do that. So if I go to the hair, I can start to change this value. So if I increase this to, let's try same 10,000. So it's meant to have this. So if I close this, let's start all over and see. I'm not having this. Okay, so now I have this couplet. So once I have this object, you notice I'm seeing the hairline. So now this hair is quite small. So I can always come back here. Let's bring this back also to 6, so we're consistent. And notice for the guide, I can separately change the value of the guide from the hair. I can say I want the guide to be, so let's say 5,000, but the hair is more than the guide. So that will also have effect also. So you should note that. So let me increase this to, let's say 30,000. You can start to see that you have more of this here, right? Okay, so once you have this hair, now the 30,000 strand of hair is still not what is represented here right now. If you go to the editor, you notice that the detailing is only giving me 25% of that 30,000, which is displayed here. So if I want to see the whole 30,000 strand, all you need to just increase this. So if I make this 100%, so this is the 100% of the 30,000 strand of hair that I have. All right. So what I love doing is I love working starting small. So I'll start with 5,000 and bring this to, let's say, 50%. Then I would start to brush off the hair because right now the hair is just standing up straight, and I don't want that. Now, if I hit space bar, you notice the hair has dynamic and it falls. I don't want that. So instead, what I'll do is I'll go over to the dynamics section and I'm going to disable the dynamic on this hair. So if I play, it stays where the hair stay where they are. So that's the next thing to do. So and the next thing after that is to try and brush off this hair. So if I go to the simulate, I go over to the hair tool. Let me just throw this open. So I have a whole lot of things to do here. I can scale, I can rotate, I can brush, I can comb the hair. So what I need here is to comb this hair, sorry, to brush this hair. If I go to the brush, so what I will do is make sure I orbit my camera such that it is looking at this straight up like a top view. And another thing is to add hair collider tag to this floor, which I've already done. So what I did was just to right click, go to hair tag, hair collider. So that's how I added this. Then also added it to this carpet object because I don't want it going down. So once I have that set, so I'll go to my brush tool. So I'll select the hair, go to the brush tool, start brushing this hair. So now you notice the wrinkle on the cloth. I also want to follow that wrinkle for realism. So this will follow here. I have this coming down here. So this one will go over to this section. So this will follow here. So that's how you will brush off all those things till you are okay with this hair you are looking for. So let me just quickly brush off all this. So what I'm doing is just tapping and clicking and dragging to brush this hair how I want it to flow. So you can see the way I'm curving this guy, and that will help. So in this case, you could just move them so they have a different feel. So we have this coming here, and also for the edge, I like having my hair go past the edge of the geometry a bit so that I'll have some of the strand poking out of that. So once I have this set, so I could reduce this. All right, so once I'm done, if you orbit a little bit, you notice the strand. So for these ones that are still standing, you can just bring them down. So this is just a way of you fine-tuning everything So for these ones here, you can just let them flow over this the way you want. So you don't want them to go through. So I think this is fine here. So you can just try and go through everything to brush them. But doing it from the top view would have really helped a lot. So the other thing you just need to do is just start fine-tuning, continue fine-tuning this. So once you are done with this brush, you can also decide to say, okay, maybe some parts you want to clump them or you want to cut. So if I, for instance, I want to cut a part, I can just from here start clicking and notice it's cutting this hair here. All right. So I'm going to undo because I don't need that cut. So you just can just play around with all these things. Now, the good thing with this technique is that you notice orbiting is a lot smoother for me to work on and start painting. If I had gone to this section and increased this count, it would have been a pain for me to brush off this thing. So this is just to help me set up this tone. I'm done with the brushing. I like the flow of the hair strand, how they go. Then I can always come in and start increasing this. So if I make this 15,000, it increase and add to that, and they follow that same brush stroke that I have. So if I make this 20,000, you notice all of them follow. And even if I increase this, you notice the curvature is more defined. So I think this method is fine. So anytime I want to do, once I'm done, I want to do my final render, I will just go over and increase this height, this count, the hair count, right? So if I go to this camera, this is what I have. So let's make this 30,000. So I have that. Then the other thing I'm also going to do is go over to this hair, to the editor. And this editor doesn't really have anything to do with the renderer. So even if you make your editor 10%, when you're rendering, you have the whole 100%. All right. So that's what noting. So I think this is still scanty. So what I'm going to do, I'll bring this to 5% and go to the hair strand. Let's try 80%, 80,000 count. Okay, so we have that. So if we make this 10, start to see, if we try and bring this to that 25% as the base, you see that, bring this 50%, you have more hair. So let's try 90 and 100. I might still go past the 80%, so you can see what we have. So let me just work with 10%. I think that's fine for the hair. Let's try 200,000 strands of hair. So this is fine because I can still orbit around smoothly without having issues. But I know that when I'm rendering, I have a very good, I have enough strand to render with. Okay, so let's quickly start texturing this up. So anytime you create a hair object, it's going to give you a hair texture that you can work with. So what I'll do is, I already have my render set up for Redshift. Right, so I'm going to go into my Redshift tag and click here so that I can see what I have at the moment. So if I do this render and let's see what we're having, then we can start texturing this thing up. And let's see if Redshift sees this. So okay, so Redshift is seeing this hair, so we can see the effect of the hair. But right now the hair is too thick. All right, too thick. If I zoom into this section, okay, sorry, let me just undo that. Create a new camera to. Okay, so then duplicate this and zoom into this. So it's going to think about it and then show me what I have. So right now, you notice that this strand is quite thick. I need to reduce this strand. It's too much. All right. So I will go to the hair tag. You can see them right here. I'll go to the hair tag. The first thing I want to do is go over to the thickness. So the thickness here is we have a varying thickness here. The root is 1 centimeter and the tip is 0.1 centimeter. So let's change the root to 0.1 centimeter to start with so that we can see what we have. Then if we like that, we can always go back and change. So for me to have a fast feedback, so I think what I'm going to do is I already know a value that I'm going to be using. So let me just change this from that 200 to 10,000. So I'm going to get a faster render. So what I just want to watch out for is the strand of this hair. All right. That's what I'm watching out for. All right. So once we have that, let's continue working on it. So I think 0.1 is kind of too thick. So let's try 0.07. And same thing for the tip, 0.7. All right, this might be fine to start with. So let's just go back to the other camera and possibly bring this count up to 100,000. So let's see. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to get rid of this in a moment. Let's just set up this strand. So now you notice the curvature that we have for all that. So it's just because of the brushing that we did, we had this to work with. So now we'll get back to the color. Let's just set every other thing before we come to the color. So that's for the thickness. We don't want to vary the thickness. And for the length, we could use now what this length does is just to vary the length of the hair strand. You can change the length from here. So right now we have 100% of the hair. So if you want half of this length, we make it 50%, and that changes the length of this strand to 50% of the set length here, this set length, which is the 5 centimeters. So now we are having 50% of which is 2.5 centimeters. So I think this is not bad. So let's try 75%. I think that 100% might be too long for us. But then this will just affect the whole strand globally. All right. But if you want to change this, you want to kind of, how do I put it? You don't want the length to vary. You want to change the distribution of the length, more like break off the length, how the lengths are reduced. You can use noise to do that. So if you click here and go to noise, so it's going to look at this noise pattern. Everywhere you have black will get to no hair. Everywhere you have white will be 100%, and gray will be 50% of the strand. So if I push this further to something like this, so I think you get the idea. Just more of a 500. So you can see everywhere you have this white will have hair and black no hair. So you can start see how to do that. But here, I think what I can do is I can start to say, okay, I want to use fall off to change this strand. So if I come to the texture and go over to effect, I have fall off. So what fall off does is, so let me just stop this for a moment. So we want to change this color to black and white because we want to use grayscale value. And now we have the direction of the fall off. So we have the X, the Y, and the Z. And remember, the Y is the height value. So we want to do this such that everywhere we have the top of this, we have more of the strand, if that is what you want. Then we set this to Y1 and everything. Let's just show you so you can understand what is happening. So as the creases goes down, you notice what is happening here. Okay. So if I change this to -1, you have the inverse of that. All right. Okay. So this is just one of the possibilities of this. We have object world. Okay, so it's taking that use bump. So we are using the bump of this. So if I right click this and change the knob, invert the knob, you're also going to have a different effect to this. See that? So now in this case, now everywhere, all the top parts will have a reduced hair. So if I don't want it to go to 0 hair, I can just change this from black to maybe 60%. So we're still going to have hair there, but it's just going to be reduced. Do you understand? So that is what, so you can start seeing changes in that. Then another thing you can also use is also, let's just clear this. You can also use where's this effect. Is it terrain mask or weathering? I think it's one of them. Weathering. So let me just pause this for a moment. So weathering, nope, not weathering. I think it's terrain mask. So if you go to the effect and go to terrain mask. So what the terrain mask will do is that it's going to look at the geometry, more like, you know, you have your mountain top and the valley or the steep effect. So it's going to take that information and try to create use the lens to affect that information. So if we just, so it's taking the direction of y plus, so you can see what we have there. So you can actually work with this and change some values. If I right click here and do the same thing that I did there, make this 60%. You're also going to have a different effect to that. All right, but this is just to show you that you have all these possibilities to work with, so you can actually play around with that. But I'm not going to be using that, so I'm going to clear that. So I'm fine with this value. So I'm going to go over to my freaks. So what freaks will do is going to mess the hair up. So you can see that the hair looks too smooth here, but by the time I add freaks to it, shows that the hair is roughened a little bit. And now the freeze amount will determine how rough the hair is going to look like, or it's going to be. So you can start to see that this is now looking quite different. So you see, so you can use this to change that. So I don't want this to be too much. So I think 10% is fine for me, and also have a variation of 10%, so that I still have the definition of the curvature. All right, just a little bit of roughness to it, because I'm still going to go over to the kink. So if I go to the kink here, kink will even furtherly roughen this. And let's see the effect we have. So you start to see what kink is doing. So this is how you can start to create your carpet design pattern. So for this kink, I'm going to bring this also down. So let's try 20%. And here, so now the last effect I'm going to add here is the clump. So the clump is more of you have multiple strands being clumping together, or more like attaching together, clustering together. So that's what the clump is used for. So that is what I'm going to use to drive this effects even more. So now for the clump, you can start to see what's already happening by adding the clump. It's already taking some parts of this and bringing them together. So for this clump, we have the percentage, your count percentage, your twist, your radius. So the radius is the first thing you want to look at. So the radius is more like the radius of your clump. What do you want your clump to search around? You want to search around 40 centimeter radius and look for all the hair in that radius and try and clump them together. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just pause this like I always do. I'm going to bring in an object, that I'm going to use to illustrate. So if, for instance, this is the object I have, and let's look at the radius of 40. You notice that 40 is quite large in this case based on the scale of my drawing. So what I will do is let's reach out to, let's try and see 3. I think 3 is not bad. Still go a little bit. 2. So 2 is fine in my opinion. So what that means that it's going to look for air that are within this radius and try and clump them together. Do you get the idea? Air within this radius, clump them together, air within the same radius around this, clump them together. All right, so that's what that is going to do. Then adding this effect with the count will now determine how this. So let's just quickly change this value so you see the effect. So for the radius, I'm going to bring this variation to 0 to start with. So let's bring this to 3 like we said. So let's try and see what we have. So this should come up. All right, so we are having this. All right, so now the clump effect is now defined to small area, as in contrast to the other one that we had. So if I make this 40%, so I'm coming. Okay, so let me just do a snapshot here. Okay. So let me just take a snapshot so that is there for me. All right. So the snapshot is there. So let me just change this to the 40 that we have. So you're going to see the difference between that and for the 3 radius. Okay, so just a moment so you can just start to see. All right, so I think I'm good here. So let me just take another snapshot and post this. So this is the first one. You can see this is the first one with 3 centimeter, and this is the next one. The second one with okay, I think with this scale, let me just do another one with the 3 centimeter. So we are going to 3 centimeter and render. Okay, so I do want rendering, just so sorry about that. System is now slowing me. So all right, so it actually hung up on me, so my system crashed. I mean cinema 4D crashed, so I had to get back to this. So this is, I had to re-render this. I did this for 40. This is 40 centimeter, and eventually did this for 10 centimeter. So this is 10 centimeter, and this is the 40 centimeter. So let me just set them. So for the 10 centimeter, I make this A. So it's going to be here, and this is going to be B. So the 10 centimeter is on the left, and the 40 is on the right. So if you see, so this is the 40, this is the 10, 40, 10, 40, 10. So depending on the fill you are looking for, you can change the value. I think the 40 kind of look nice, but who knows? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove B, right click and remove it. So we're back. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go with the 40 to start with and start to change this count. All right. So if we go back to 40 and increase this count. So let's say for the count we want 50%. So we have more to be added into this. So let's just try and render that and see what that 50% will give us. Count of 50% and clumps of 10%. So we have this setting up for us. So let's have more clumps in this. So select these clumps and let's have more clumps. 30. Let's see. So you start to see all these changes. So you can start to see what this clumps is now doing. So we have 30% of the clump. So let's see the count. So if we make the count 10%, go back to 10% count and count. So what is going to happen now is that, okay, so we have that. So let's bring this to 10 and let's see what we have. So we're bringing the radius down to see the effects we are going to have. So you start to see that, okay, now because we brought this radius down, the clump is now added to a very small area. So if you even bring this further down to 5%, we were not seeing the effect more because we didn't change the value of this clump and count. So you can see the difference now. We're now at 5% of radius and a clump of 30. So you're seeing this. All right. So if I bring this clump up to 50, we're going to have a different effect, which is going to be different from what we have at the moment. So you see, so this actually depends on what you really want, the effect you're looking out for, and you can just change this value. I think the clump of let's try 25. I don't want to have this too much. The clumps here, I don't want it to be too much. So I think this is fine, 25. Then another thing I want to do is to vary the radius. So I don't want to just have radius of 5 to have the clump. I want to have plus or minus 3. So we could still have, so I think we just go with 10, for instance. Then we'll have a radius, we'll have a variation of 5 centimeters. So what that 5 centimeter will do now is, it means we are going to have some will be 5, the clump radius of 5, some have a clump radius of 10, some have a clump radius of 15. So you add 5 to 10 and remove 5 from 10. So this is what we're going to have. So I think this is too much for me. So let's try 7 and add a clump radius of 2. I don't want to get to 10. Clump radius of 2, and let's see the effects we're going to have. So you can just start changing this value to get the effect as you would want the effect to come up. Then once you're done setting the clump, the next thing is to look at your twist. So some of this clump also will have a twist. So if I take this length, take it to 100%, because I think I'm beginning to see the need to have a full length here, so that we can see the effect of the curvature and the clumping effect. So we're back to full length. From here, we can even increase. So if I say I want it to be, okay, I can actually increase. So we have that. So if we come over to clump, I can decide to say, okay, I want to add a radius to the twist. So let's say we want to have a twist radius of 20. Let's see if that is not too much. So would I advise you just start small and work your way up till you're fine. I think this is much, so let's try 5. And that will give me a different feel. Then you can also come to this and start changing this, how you want your clump and your twist to go. So basically what this graph is giving you from the root to the tip. All right, the root to the tip. So the effect of the clump will not be much at the roots, but at the tip you have more of the effect. All right, so the same thing for the twist. The effect of the twist at the root is not much, but as it goes to the tip, the effect at the root is not much. So as it goes to the tip, you see more of the effects coming out. So you can also change this, and also you can use shader map to change how you want the twist and the clump to be. So now that I'm done with this, I would want to come over to my color. So here, this is where you now start playing with your color. So right now, the color we have is this. And also, we are not seeing the color yet because my specular is um, adding to it. So we are seeing the effect of the specular. That's why we're seeing the white. We're not seeing the brown. If I turn off the specular, you're going to see that the brown color will pop up more, and you're going to see that color you get. So if I come here and change this to this orangish red and come to the tip and make the tip, bring it out from brown to a little bit off yellow, so you're going to see the effect also here. All right, so once you have that effect, that is one more thing. Then you can also use a texture map. So if you feel you have a texture map to use, instead of just this color, you can use a texture map. Then you can also decide to go to the root and use a particular texture map to the root and also to the tip. So what I usually do is I copy this. So this affects this globally. So I copy this and go to the root and add a gradient map. And the gradient, I'm going to put the color there. So I'm going to use that to affect that. So if I make this, paste this over here and do the same thing here to the tip. So you notice it's saying the same thing you have at the root is what you have at the tip. So you're going to have that effect. So right now, the gradient is taking place from side to side, and that's not what I want. I want it to come from down up. All right. So what I'm going to do is get rid of that gradient. I want to have this kind of effect that we have here with this color. You notice the red is from the reddish part is at the root and the yellowish part gets to the tip. So if you want to do that, you can also use your fall-off map to do that effect. So I think that is there. Then for the specular, for this specular, it's going to change this color because the color for the specular is kind of too much and the strength is much, so you are seeing more of that specular. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color such that it's still close to the base color of this rug or the carpet. Then we want to change the strength. The strength is rather too much, so bring the strength of this specular way down to, let's say, 25. So that's for the primary strengths, primary specular. You also have a secondary specular. So you also want to change that. So you notice the effect. So if I bring this secondary specular also down, so let's try 30. You notice the color start coming back to life as we had that. See? Then for your back specular also, so that specular behind, you also want to change that. So let's try 35. Then for the backlight color, so this backlight color is when is more of how do I put it? What is it? Translucency, something like that. So if I add this, you also want to add a bit of translucency to it, or which also is called backlight. So I'm going to copy this color here. You notice this thing goes darker because the translucence or the black backlit color is that. So I'm going to change this to that same color, but the difference is just I'm going to wash this off a little bit. So let me just make this towards the white part, and this, take the root, take it away, let it come towards the white part also. So this is more like a brightened version of the color. So we're going to have a different effect. Then you can also change the mix color. So right now the mix color is this. You can change this and have effects, the brightness and so on and so forth. You have that to play with. Okay, so let me just quickly stop this so that it can allow me to change some things here. This is really slowing down. All right. Okay, so now that I have this, I think I'll be fine with that. And notice this is just for the hair. So because I'm using Redshift, I would want to, so what I'm doing here is just to do the base stuff, everything I need to have it set up. So what I'm going to do now is for me to add the Redshift hair, I will go to the Redshift texture, go to the material, you have hair object. So if I click on hair material, this hair material will come up here. Then I can drag this hair material over to this hair, right? So if you double click, so the hair material is here. Okay, so you have this. You have your internal reflection, so many things to change. So now what this hair material is doing is it's taking your attributes from your hair object that you've already added here. So it's taking it and plugging it into RS hair material, so you can work with that and change a whole lot of things for your transmission. You can change your translucency. So here we can now start adding translucency to this. So if I come in and add a little bit of translucency to this hair, because we've added that over to that section, is going to have effect. So that's just everything you need to do here. So if I try and render that now, you should have something going on. So you have that. Okay. So if I zoom into this and let's see what I have, notice. So you don't want to zoom in this close, so you just note that. Right, so we have this. So what I would want to do now is, since I'm done with this, I want to do my final render. I would have to increase my hair count because right now this hair count is rather too small. So stop this for a moment, go to this and change this up. So go to the editor, make sure my editor is very small, so make it 5. Go to my hair count and bring it to 200,000. And if that is not enough, I will still increase that. So let's just see. So let me save this before anything happens. All right. Okay, so let me quickly render that and see what I have. All right, so even at 200, I still can see that the hair is still scanty. So let me go to this next camera. I think it's still scanty in my own opinion, and also I think the clump is rather too much. What do you think? I think it's too much. So what I'll do is go to the clump, and maybe I'll pause this because now I'm working with large chunk of hair. So go to the clump, bring this clump to 20, to a radius of 5, 1.5, and let me see what that will give me. If not, I'll still go back and change these values. All right, this is coming out nice, still better, but there's still room to change, still room to do a whole lot of things here. So okay, so I think I can still go with so let me try let me stop this and try 18 and maybe 4. So 18 and 4 here, and put one as the variation here. So maybe for the kink I would make it 10 also, and I think everything is fine as is. Then I will still also want to increase this count. So let me just go to the count and bring this to 500. All right, so I know I'll be pushing this now. So let me just pause this and render and then be back. So I'm going to do a snapshot of this so that we'll see the difference between them. So let me just pause, then I'll render and be back. All right, so I have that. So if you check the initial one, still can't see, then I have that here. So this is the 500 count, and this is the 200 count of hair. I think the 500 might be too much. The 200 looks a little. For me, I think the 200 is fine because I like the way the hair, but right now it's too populated. So I'm going to bring this back, even if it's not 500, even if it's not 200, maybe 300. Then for the hair, I think I will take this back to 15. It was at 20 before, take it to 15, bring this back to 5, and 1.5. I think that is okay. Then another thing is, if for instance you don't want this color, you want to add your own texture, for instance. So I think I have a texture here. So maybe I want to use any of this texture, I can also use them. So what I would do is just copy this out. I can just come to this texture and go over to the color. Then go to the roots, or I will just do that here. So I'll just come here, add a texture object, and pick one of these. So let's just choose this. So that texture is going to be added to this object right here. And that is what we're going to see over this. All right. So let me just, and also for this objects, the carpet that you have the hair on, I can do two things. I can decide to create a Redshift material to fake the same stuff. So I will bring in a texture object and try and fake that also. So select that. So if I come over to this, I can go to this texture, copy this, and paste this here. All right, and drag this over to the base color. So now, because this is rug or this is carpet, I don't want to have reflection, and maybe a little bit of roughness would do. Okay, so then I'm going to add this over to the carpet. So that's one way you can see that. So that's going to fake all these things, and the texture will come together as this. Then another thing is to delete this. So let's just try this and see the effect we're going to have. Then we also do other. So I'll just do the two rendering while I have this method, and also deleting hiding this, so you see the difference between both. So just hold on for me. All right, so you can see what I have. I have this with the carpet on and this without the carpet on. You can start to see some changes. So what is happening here? So these are the carpets because I added a texture. So if you notice all these things, because I added a texture there, just covers up this. But then this is fine if you want to have the geometry and you're far from these carpets. But if you want to have a close-up shot like this, this doesn't really look nice. So you want to go with this, and this is just me hiding the carpet and having this. Then there's another texture added to it. So I feel this was helpful. If you feel this was helpful, you could just please give me a like and a thumbs up and share this because it helps me. And if you are new to my channel, please do subscribe because I do tutorials like this every time. So once more, you have a wonderful day and God bless you.